All right, there they are. Okay, so let's can't hear you yet. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second talk this morning. It's a great pleasure to introduce you to someone that I've worked with for a while in the light world and always just been amazed and inspired by her beautiful heart connection to the Lucia light. And we've both been diligent on our journey of working with the Lucia over the years through many unexpected twists and turns and magic along the way. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Tina.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you for this great idea of bringing the international community together. It's really exciting to be part of it with you. You were there, my very first, Portland, 3 weeks after I had my light. We were at a float show in Portland, learning the language of the light. So very dear to me as well. And you've been at the forefront of so many leading ideas. And this one is just another way of showing us what can be done as a community. So it means a lot. I'm really happy to be participating. The topic I was given is, I think, quite suited to me. I am somebody who follows my heart and my feelings a lot more than I follow my logic when it comes to making decisions and taking risks. It's always like, this feels really right. It might not make sense from a business point of view, but I have to do it. And I think the best example was while we were in COVID, I bought a second light when we were closed. Like, what exactly am I doing right now? But I knew that it had to happen. And I will talk a little bit about that later because it led us into some beautiful new practices that wouldn't have been possible had I not done that. Because I have been given this topic of holistic heart opening, I would like to introduce one of the people that actually introduced me to the light when it was brought to Vancouver. She's one of my team, and her name is Ja Pache, and she will be joining me here to take us through a meditation that she's written for us today. Welcome, Ja.
Thank you, Tina. Hi, Allison, and everyone out there. Yeah, I would love to bring us into a meditation. So if you feel like you would like to join, you can just find a comfortable place. If you're already sitting somewhere comfortable, or move to somewhere you can hear my voice, you don't need to see the screen. And if you feel comfortable, you can start to close your eyes. So I'll just give you a second to find your grounding. Maybe you feel the temperature of the space around you. Listen to the sounds around you. And as you turn inward, start to feel the sensations within. Take a deep inhale in through your nose and a releasing exhale out through your mouth. Again, inhale deep all the way into your belly and exhale. Take a few more breaths like this. Imagining each inhale, you are filling up with vital life force, energy, nutrients, and each exhale, you feel release of anything that's been holding you back so that you can move forward on your path. Within these breaths, you feel the swirling of the oxygen around your heart, inside of your lungs. Sense the sensation of the breath moving in and out, swirling around. And as you breathe, soften the space between your eyebrows, third eye. Soften your shoulders. Each breath, with that swirling energy, start to visualize your heart, perhaps growing and glowing a little lighter. As you let go and receive, your heart is glowing lighter. Breathing into your heart space. Perhaps you would like to place one hand on your heart, and the other hand above it. Feeling into the natural rhythm, the unique beating within your chest. Just breathing naturally, embracing your unique rhythm that began at the beginning of time. One heartbeat from your grandmother to your mother to you within the womb where your heartbeat begins. The beating has never ceased. The continuous rhythm of life. And as you breathe, allow this breath swirling around to bring a nurturing, healing energy to crack open any protection, any hard layers that we may have formed around our hearts. And as this breath becomes so vast and expansive that it begins to crack open the hard exterior that we formed or any blockages, all of these cracks, we start to feel the light pouring in to our hearts, swirling around within our hearts. Our hearts are swirling around with light. Perhaps there is a color. Tune in, or colors. Just sense your own unique energy that resides within your heart in this precise moment as you breathe. Allowing this light to swirl around within your heart, and as your heart becomes freer, this light begins to expand and it starts to grow and fill every cell in your entire body with love, with healing energy, light, love. And as you breathe, just like oxygen to a fire, this light grows and grows, and perhaps you can feel it expanding outside of your body each breath. And as you soften your body, allowing yourself to be held and embraced by this light, the light grows even bigger and bigger. It may be expanding outside of your home or wherever you are, perhaps across the whole town and city. Your light, your unique light, growing and glowing, rippling across this planet. Can you feel it expanding? Perhaps your heart lifts a little higher to send this love and this light a little further, until eventually it becomes so expansive that each one of our lights around the world become united, and all of our lights coming from our hearts encompasses the entire planet with a glowing energy. Can you feel it? This light is love. This light is love. I am love. I am loved. Love. 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 When you're ready, you can come back into the space, gently opening your eyes. And I'll let Tina and Allison take you away.
Wow. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. So jumping back in from that amazing place, I would like to acknowledge that in all my years of practicing with the light, which funnily enough, I received my light June 15th, 2015. So it's my 8-year anniversary and 3 days. So very exciting that this is so close to marking that time. Early on working with clients, it became very apparent that even though the light is seemingly a mental exercise and is very focused on doing the work in the brain, I never once had a disconnect, either in the way a client was describing their experience or my own experiences, where I didn't have a very strong knowing that the entire journey that takes place, no matter how gentle or how intense, it always landed in the feeling body. It always landed in the heart. So there was a real union between the emotional, the mental, the feeling body. And I don't think I'm aware of another modality that brings these together just naturally. I'm still in awe of that. If somebody else knows of something where you have a practice and you're activating the mind and creating such an expansion and connecting to consciousness, all the while bringing every other aspect of your being into harmony, I'd be curious what it is. But I'm very grateful all these years in just bearing witness to what our clients are sharing with us. We came out of the lockdown in COVID here, which had closed our studio for 5 months. And as I said, when we started out, I purchased a second light, seemingly at a very crazy time, but we had the luxury of having space in our studio. We had an event space. We have since moved from that space into an even bigger space, which is fabulous, and we're so grateful. But in the space that we started doing journeys with 6 to 8 people, we were allowed to open up and offer these journeys because we could space people in their chairs 6 feet apart, which was deemed to be a safe way to bring groups together. It was obvious that people were so disconnected from any kind of community, and that feeling of there was no safe way to practice anything anymore really surprised me how much that picked up. And we are doing 1 to 2 circles weekly still, and primarily these are private circles that one woman in particular has worked with her own pranic healing clients, and saw that during COVID, a lot of these clients were going through a variety of issues. Some of them felt to be brought on by the vaccine. She was seeing many more congested pineal gland and just an unwell, generally speaking. Her clients felt very disconnected, unwell, and she was having a hard time accessing them. So she started sharing with them that what she practices herself and what keeps her vibrating at a very high level is working with the light regularly. And from that, she ended up bringing groups of people that needed these breakthroughs and needed to be able to have her deepen her work with them. And they are now coming in groups. And this has been going on since we opened up. So I don't know, what are we, 2.5 years open since then? I think it's about that long. And she's here once or twice a week with groups of 8 people. And she has a waiting list that we don't advertise for this. People are just like, please bring me to the next group. And again, having taken the risk and buying the second light, not knowing exactly what I was doing in that moment, turned out to be the best decision I ever made. We also offer beautiful light, sound, sensory journeys here. And the young woman who you met a minute ago, Ja, she and I created the light and sound journeys together in 2015. And that looked very different than what it does now. We were doing things in people's homes with limited amounts of instruments. Ja's family are all musicians, so they would just show up and we were just figuring it out together. And it has led us now into actually taking people on journeys that feel, from what others are sharing, very similar to medicine journeys. They're, we're using beautiful drums and gorgeous instruments that come from the jungles that Ja and her family have traveled to and have been used in other ceremonies. I know the one that comes to mind is San Pedro ceremonies, because Ja's mentioned some of them to us while we're learning how to use the instruments. So we're offering something that, even though people are attracted to the light because they have done a lot of psychedelics and are working with psychedelics, we are bridging that. It's not a gap. I think it's a very complementary alternative for people who will continue to do the more intense medicine journeys, but are so grateful that they have another way to have the experience. And like yourself, Allison, I know that, we work with these communities, and there's no better or any judgment or say you don't have to do that anymore because now you can do the light instead. None of us feel that way. We just want to be here in support of what the clients are choosing to do. And we've also seen that helping people integrate their very deep medicine journeys with the light and with talk therapy. There is one young woman in the studio who is offering that as something in her calendar that people are booking, and it is a very popular appointment that people are seeking out, because in the psychedelic world, although it's very profound and can be life-altering in many different ways, it seems there isn't maybe enough time for the full integration, and people feel like they've now left the space where that opening happened, and they're really grateful to have more. We also have the Numinous group, who's close to where we're located, where some of the people from that organization are looking to us and saying, we want to incorporate this as the post treatment. And we're really excited about that. The people that did the Dosed movies, are also some of them local or just outside the Vancouver area, and they have brought in clients who have gone through the intensive Ibogaine journeys. So again, we're humbled and grateful that the light is now being looked to as an integration tool, as a post treatment modality. That was not an easy connection to make. So I thank everybody who has been part of MAPS for opening. Basically, I feel like we had to blow those doors open. And it was a very elite, tight community to break through. And many people were involved in it. And so we are now reaping the benefits of coming into it as a support role, mostly in our studio, and just very amazed at the level of, I want to say healing, and I am careful not to use that word. Health Canada is particularly sticky over here. We have to be mindful that we're not healing anything. And so I say that with a certain amount of caution, but it's hard not to recognize when people have great outcomes. Saying that, I'm going to segue into a client I'm working with right now. This came out of our group work, where we would have the occasional person in a group of 8 who had sensitivity to the light, or had a concussion, or had some kind of injury, where suddenly they're participating in the light and sound journey. And we also use a lot of sensory. So there's touch, there's sense, there's smudging, there's a variety of things. So the opposite to what the single light sessions are, where it's very much about allowing the client to go deeply into their own journey. When we do groups, it's like activating all the senses. And it's another way to take people into such a great activation where suddenly they are in full surrender. There's no way to track anything anymore. It's like, okay, I'm here, I'm letting go, and it is fascinating to watch what happens. But in these groups, we did have the occasional person who was overstimulating, and we have blackout masks. So we would offer a blackout mask, and instead of targeting the third eye, we would think, well, let's just put the light on their heart, or let's just target their solar plexus. And we do have a couple of team members who work with energy. And so they would have a sense of, I think this person could really use it on their root chakra. And of course, we're not speaking during these ceremonies, but we are all very tuned into each other. I'm sure many of you have done group work. So it's like you're working with a group of clients, but the people who are leading the group are also in their own dance. And we're all part of the journey in a way. Out of watching and observing and hearing what clients who didn't have the light on the third eye coming out and describing things as though you would think they were in their own private journey with the light on their third eye the entire time, had epic visuals, and the effects on the body were immense. Out of that work over the last couple of years, I am now working with other people with conditions. The one that I want to speak about is someone who's an athlete and has had a series of very serious concussions. He plays goal for a hockey team, and he has just decided that he's stepping away from it because it's not worth it to him. But this last concussion, he took a hit on the right side, and it was an intentional hit, which is unfortunate. And it has caused issues with his jaw. And one of his health providers has said that the two plates are sort of overlapping on the right side of his brain. So there's going to be quite a recovery period. He's part of the concussion clinic, so he's very well tracked. It has been profoundly helpful for me because he's aware of his condition in a way that informs me more than the average person who's suffering a concussion. He goes through a series of tests that show the improvement, and he has had enough concussions and done these tests over the years that they are seeing that since he's been using the light, there's unexplainable forward motion in his recovery. And they're asking him, well, what are you doing differently? And he knows it's the light. And he was in here last week. So because it's a concussion, so I'll just back up. He comes in weekly and has been doing so for about 4 months. Because of the light sensitivity with most people with concussions, he does wear a blackout mask. I was able to put the light on his third eye until he had this last concussion 4 months ago. And now we are targeting all the other energy centers. So I start at the root, I work my way to his throat, and then I take the light, and he's laying on the massage bed, and I focus it on his crown. I don't put it on the third eye. He has a sensation where his eyes are really activated, even when the light is on his root chakra. His eyes are moving. He's really aware that the light is on him. And this last time, he said his eyes were a lot more still, but he felt a lot of energy in his jaw and all moving through the right side of his body, where he's very still during a session. And he was moving his foot and straightening out his right side. And I thought, oh, I wonder if he's just feeling restless. Maybe the light's been on him too long. And when he came out, he said, I was actually feeling energy coming out. And he doesn't necessarily have the full language for what's happening to him. He can describe his condition really well, but he's learning how to speak about the light. And it's been phenomenal to learn with him. But he was essentially describing a huge right-sided release and the activity in the jaw that was really targeting the injury. So I'm sure most practitioners have heard, even when it's a regular light session on the third eye, someone saying, wow, my hip was really being worked on, or I had a sore knee and now that doesn't seem to be bothering me anymore. So the miracles of working with the Lucia number 3 never get old. We never reach a place where we go, oh, yeah, that. Every day is another day of being in awe and feeling the blessings that literally this light through Jaw, hearing about it from a friend of hers and saying to me, you've got to check this website out and you've got to go try this light. And she said, there's only 2 appointments left. And I'm like, now what are you bringing to me? And when I looked at the website, I literally said, if this light does 1/100th of what it says it does, I need to have it, even before I tried it. And then I did go and try it in a float place just down the street from where we are now. And like many people, many of our clients, I came out and said, how did you project those images into my mind? Like, I'm not someone who's visual. And you know who brought it to Canada from the UK said to me, oh no, you're creating all that. And I mean, to this day, I think all of us could attest to the fact that people are in shock when, even though you say to them, the only thing that this device will emit is a series of different frequencies of white light, active light, and then at the end they're saying, oh, and then this blue light came on. I'm like, no, it didn't come on. You created it. So having said all of that, really to just come back to this has been a leading edge product and still remains that way. It is in a class of its own. The journeys that people experience with this light cannot be matched with anything else. Yes, there are other ways to activate people, but that feeling of the whole experience, that it lands inside of your feeling body and you're not just coming out with like, whoa, what just happened? I'm overstimulated, is a miracle. And we have so many people in Austria who spent decades literally to get to this. Just very grateful to be doing this work.
So beautiful, Tina. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
You brought in, these really highly sensitive people as well. And whether it's from a concussion or just being naturally sensitive, yesterday Kat was talking about the nervous system and how we all have different inputs, right? And each input is so sensitive, but that you also shared how you can put the light on different parts of the body, different chakras. And there was a question actually in the chat about those chakras. How do you choose where to place the light when you have someone that's that sensitive?
So I just, some of it is intuitive. Some of it may be that a client talked about something that is causing them some issue. And they're working on something, like if they have some gut health issues, and that I have a lot of regular clients. So what I am doing now, almost with every single client, unless they really want the light on their third eye for like 45 or 50 minutes, I will do probably a 30-minute session on the third eye. And then I take the light to the root chakra and I spend a few minutes on each energy center coming back up to the throat. And then I will always end on the third eye for maybe the last 5 minutes. So they get a full hour almost of light, but much of that time we are going through the energy systems, because when you start on the third eye for 20 or 30 minutes, that opening, the expansion has happened. They're still staying in that quiet space, almost always with headphones, listening to often solfeggio, choice of track. So they're really in a very meditative, very receptive state. And what I understood for myself is, if this light has the capacity to do what it does when we put it on the third eye, if it can open our inner vision that way, it stands to reason that if we put it on our heart, it will also have the capacity to create an even bigger expansion. Not to mention, we all have an appreciation that if we saturate our being with white light, just that in itself is super healing. So my answer is, if I know someone's dealing with a particular area, I will target it. If I don't, I will always tell a client now that this is my choice of treatment. I would like to offer them to have all the energy centers targeted, and we will end on the third eye. And people are very happy and receptive to that. I just think doing 50 minutes on the third eye is more than what is required to achieve that expansion in the opening. But I do have some clients who've been with me from the beginning, and they're like, no, I need it on my third eye the whole time. I don't argue with people, because these are clients who come in and say, today I want to do inside as outside, because they've sort of over the years gotten to know what the different programs are. And how beautiful is that they can inform you. And it's like, other than asking them, how are you feeling today? Have you had a good sleep? Where are you at? If somebody comes in and says, I haven't slept in 3 days, I'm exhausted, and I want to do, a near-death experience, I might say, well, let's back up a little bit, maybe do something that's more replenishing rather than pushing you today. And people, for the most part, are really, amenable to it. But more than me trying to lead my clients, I feel very much that my job is to support their request and to just keep them feeling like they are safe and taken care of, and that when they're in our studio, they have no work to do. They're just here to receive, whether it's us offering the little things that give them more comfort, but more than anything, to receive the light and to not bring a whole bunch of work to it. And I'm sure you can attest to this, and probably others. I love practicing with the light and asking people to allow themselves to be in an open and receptive state, rather than coming into it with a list of, okay, I'm trying to manifest these 10 things, so I am going to work on that. I understand why people want to do that. It is a fast track to that, because you are in that open state. But I feel like the person laying on the bed having a light session is the three-dimensional being who is opening up to the greater aspect of themselves. So for me, it's a little counterintuitive to take the little self and tell the greater that is connected to all that is, here's what I want to work on today. So again, if it's a regular client, and we know the ones that say are working with Joe Dispenza, and they're definitely going to do that breathing exercise, or they're bringing their practice to it, I don't argue with them. It's like, if that's how you choose to use the opening that is going to be created by you, for you, then I will respect that. But if they're a regular client, I will ask them to consider alternating. Just like, come and do a light session, and don't always do your other practice. Yes, I understand how important it is to set intentions. It's like, what if you could just enjoy your light session and receive and allow while you're under the light, and then take that into your practice, because it stays with you. It's not like, oh, now it's over and you leave it behind. This is something you created. It belongs to you. I didn't give it to you. The light is the tool that actually unlocks the door that most of us can't get through on our own. So take the gift and bring it to your practice. That is how I still choose to guide people, in as much as they want to receive that. And for those that are quite sure they've got it figured out in a way that serves them, I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer. And just a few more questions here from the chat. Gabriella was asking, have you experienced a decrease in pain with individuals that deal with nerve pain, such as sciatica or back trauma? And have you ever placed the light on their back? I know I've done the back of the heart before, and that's really powerful. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Yes, I have done that, and people do feel, I don't think that I could say if someone's dealing with sciatica, it is so severe for many people. I think that going back to if there is an issue, the light allows us to move the problem aside. And when we can be distracted by our physical or mental or emotional issue, then the solution can come in. So I do think everything can be alleviated, but when you're working with sciatica, I think you also have to be doing the other things, because it is a condition where there are now discs often pinching nerves and things happening that I don't know how much light you would have to do to start creating shifts physically that way. But yes, it would give relief. I've had a woman having a throbbing toothache who was going to cancel her appointment. She had an abscess, and she phoned me the next day and said, I canceled my appointment. I would never expect that that could happen, but for her it did. So yes, things are greatly assisted, but I believe that we have to use medicine and natural remedies and light and our own practices to be in the most balanced state. And the light accelerates all the other things you're doing. But yeah, I have definitely used it on the back and the back of the heart. It works beautifully. People feel it. It's absorbed into the body.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's such a great answer. And, for anyone who's kind of returning again and again to trying to treat conditions with the light, with the questions that we've seen kind of so far with certain people, most of our practitioners and kind of, again, the idea behind the light is not for treating conditions. Miracles can happen, right? Magic can happen when we let go of this intense mental decision to try to fix something. And as you were speaking to so beautifully, these underlying emotional, elements can be worked with. But it's important to remember for anyone listening that, these lights are not here to be medical devices. We're not here to medically treat anything. And as you, beautifully said, yeah, it's a holistic treatment of everything, right? There's no magic pill for anything. And I know for myself, I found that with clients who look to try to fix one thing with the light, that can actually delay their process of healing, versus if they come in with that openness, right, to see what's possible, that actually gives a chance for things to move through. So I feel like you said that really beautifully. And people joining today and with other questions for people, then I recommend, as much as you want to ask about fixing certain things, to keep coming back to that, that nature of the heart, right, and the deep soothing way that we can work with it. Okay, and a couple more questions really quick. I will just, since we just have a couple minutes, I will ask the ones that were said, and then feel free to respond as you like. So there was one person who asked, since most of the programs are 20 to 30 minutes, how are you expanding it? And another person on that same note, like when you're doing chakras, are you using strobing light or solid light? And another person related to that said, would you do more intense sessions when not focusing on the third eye? And then finally, really quick, and then Eric says, have you been able to treat individuals that get adversely triggered by flashing lights, such as epileptic? I'm assuming no, but any of those that you care to speak with, that would be wonderful.
So I will choose a program. Let's say I was doing Firefly on somebody because they really like that program. And instead of then going to maximum white light to do the body, I thought, the body's been receiving the frequencies of firefly through the third eye. I'm going to stick with firefly. So I did firefly on the body and finished with that. I do have clients who I will switch to from whatever program they're doing. They may be doing growth or success. And then I feel strongly that I want to move to white light maximum to just give them the saturation of the soft light. So I use my intuition, but typically if I'm using an active light and I run a double session, even for people who are regulars that want it just on the third eye, I will run the same program twice rather than switch it. Because I think giving them a whole new series of frequencies and activity isn't what I feel has a good flow. Yes, it works, and yes, I've done it, but I feel in the last few years, I've been more inclined to stick to the same program and run it a second time. Have I treated people who have epilepsy? Yes, and I would never choose to do that. I have a very dear friend who has had a big problem with me not wanting to do this, but she had childhood epilepsy and she's convinced she's cured. And I'm just not interested in having that experience. That's just my personal safety. That I don't want to have the experience for her. And I certainly don't need that to be going on in the studio with one of my team members. It's a hard thing for many of us.
Yeah, and a reminder that we're not doctors, we're not trying to like fix conditions or deal with things like that. So I would just be, we're all very careful to make sure that we have informed consent with people and that make sure that they are clear that if this is an issue for them, that they should not be ongoing. And, you can do solid light sessions with them. And I've had people have incredible journeys, just as you mentioned, with the flickering light in different parts of the body. If you do solid light, then that's also can just be so beautiful for someone like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. And then let's see, one last question I wanted to ask you for the recording that I'm asking everyone who's speaking. If someone came up to you and said, Tina, what is this Lucia light that you work with? Or what is this experience? How would you respond?
I would respond by saying it is impossible to explain it. Even if you have had the experience, you can never take the vastness of what takes place in a single light session and put it into words. It goes beyond what the English language can give us an understanding of it. It just covers too many things. I would say it's beautiful. It creates a reset. It can cause beautiful shifts, and it opens your heart.
So beautiful. Yes. And, I love all of it with everyone because there's also so many ways we can describe the Lucia, but that's a beautiful distillation of, of ways to share. Great. And then I also just wanted to read out loud one of the comments because it was so beautiful from Danny. And she says, I think we are allowed to spread well-being. I think this is when you're talking about the healing not being allowed in Canada. I think we're allowed to spread well-being, and it is my core belief that we all need it more than ever before. I'm looking forward to come visit you at Sky Studio. I love what you do and how your practice is evolving. And she says, I would like to acknowledge you as a great healer. It's who you are. You are totally aligned with your gift. And when you see people healing or transforming in your loving presence and space. She was fortunate to have her first session with you, Tina, and she'll be coming back soon.
Oh, thank you. So sweet. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody who's been part of this.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Jillian says thank you from Nova Scotia. Yeah, there's a lot of love coming in through there. So thank you so much, Tina, for being part of this and for all you do. And Ja, thank you for that presentation. That was wonderful. Really getting us all in our hearts. And yeah, may we stay there and continue shining our light. And yeah, thank you both for joining us today. And for everyone else, we'll have a short 9-minute break here, and then we'll have an interview with Michael Potter. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Take care.